Welcome back. Today, I want to speak to you about toxic positivity. It seems like an oxymoron, right? How can being positive be toxic? Positive thinking is supposed to be great for you, and it is in certain circumstance. But what I'm talking about today is where people just keep trying either themselves to just be positive all the time and don't let themselves have the feelings that all artists and honestly all humans have, or they have people around them who are telling them to just be positive. Whenever they're upset, be positive. It's not possible. You'll be really unhappy. So let's break down a couple of examples of toxic positivity. So for yourself, you might have a lot of things going wrong. Maybe your job that pays your bills fell through. Maybe you got rejected from a film festival, or you didn't get a part you wanted, or you can't get that grant that you've been applying for years. And you're really feeling down, and you say to yourself, no, don't feel down. Be positive. Be positive. You just have to be positive and keep going. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to keep going. And what that does is all that upsetment gets pushed down, and you're not going to function well because all of your brain energy, all of your soul energy is going to be spent on trying to keep yourself positive. I think it's best. You can choose to do that, but I think it's best to let yourself have those feelings. Now, if you're moping for months about something, that's a problem, and you may want to talk to someone. That's what therapists are for. That's important. You got to take care of your mental health. But forcing yourself to try to be positive because you have a couple of days of feeling crappy, just let it out. Because if you let it out and let it go, maybe write about it, maybe just try to go running or get yourself out of your rut, is going to be better for you in the long run. So that's one way you shouldn't do toxic positivity to yourself. But then there are people in the world who do that to you. And there's 3 reasons people do that. So here's an example of it. You're upset. You're talking about being rejected from something. Maybe, it could just be something personal in your life, right? Maybe somebody broke up with you. Who knows? And your friend turns to you. And this has just happened, and your friend says, well, I just try to be positive that something else will come along. I just try to be positive. I don't let myself get negative about these things. I choose to do that. So that shuts down that conversation, because what are you going to say? You're going to say, well, I think it's terrible that you try to be positive. That's kind of weird. Or, well, I have a right to my feelings and you don't get it and I need to be negative right now. That's awkward. So it just cuts it off. And it gets cut off for 3 reasons. 1, the person really thinks they're helping you by telling you to be positive. It's possible. That could just be that person thinks they can snap you out of it. Years ago, I broke up with someone and I was really upset about it. And my friend said to me that night after it happened, that same day, well, you just let it go. There's other people out there. Just move on, be happy, get past it. And I turned to her and I said, well, this just happened today. It just happened today. I'm not ready to do that. Do you cannot understand that? And she said, oh, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I just don't want you to be unhappy because of this person who is kind of evil. And it's true. But, she realized she didn't give me that time. She just was upset that I was upset. So that's one reason someone might do that. Then there's people who just can't deal with your upset. So they shut the conversation down. It's totally subconscious, I think. But they say things like, oh, just be positive. That's what I do. Because inside they're freaking out. Because maybe you're talking about how you've been auditioning for months and you can't get a gig, and they're in the same boat or a similar boat. And they're like, oh, I can't handle their upset. I'm trying to just keep my life going. And so they say something that shuts it down. Well, I'm just trying to be positive. Let's just be positive. And it's knowing your friend or your family member, whoever, to see where they're at, to understand that might be what's happening with them. Always lead with kindness and think, well, why are they saying this to me? But there's a 3rd type of person who does this, and they're people that you might want to consider getting out of your life. It depends on the situation, obviously. or just minimize what you tell them. Maybe there's certain things you don't talk to them about. But these are people who are what I call vampires. There's a lot of people that fit into this category. There's negative people who fit into that category. They just suck the life out of people with their negativity. But there's also people who suck the life out of you with their fake positivity. And what do I mean by that? Well, you say, oh, it's so hard, I get rejected, and I'm struggling, and they come at you with you, well, I just try to be positive, and that works for me. I just think positive thoughts, and, it just gets me through all the time, and you might want to consider that. It's this condescending, not sitting you down saying, look, you've been upset for weeks, you need to, try to focus on some positive things. That's a good friend, okay? But the person who just comes at you right away and is like, well, I just do this. You don't need them in your life. I'm not saying throw people out, but you don't need them in that part of your life. Maybe you don't talk about that with them. Those are people that are enjoying it and they're kind of getting a kick out of it. And there's a lot of people like that, especially in the art world, because there's a lot of insecure people. And quite frankly, there are a lot of bullies in the world in general. And that's not healthy. Okay, it's one thing, again, if it's been going on for weeks and a friend sits you down and says, look, let's try to think of something positive. I see you're struggling. Let's focus on some good things that are happening. Great. I'm talking about the people who just shut you down and they're condescending and rude. Don't feel bad about being upset. You have a right to be upset. I just went through this recently myself. I was rejected from a festival that I really thought my film would get into, and it didn't get in. And normally I just let it go. It had been rejected from a number, but there were other things going on in my life, and I just was like, I can't take one more thing. And there were some friends who said to me, and this is what I think is the best way to approach people who are upset. They're empathetic. Yeah, I get it. 200%. I feel you. I feel you. And then they check in maybe a few days later. And then eventually you get past it and you can talk to them about it. You cannot talk to them about it, but they're just there being empathetic. But then there were some other people who were like, well, Shari, you get rejected sometimes, so I don't know why you're upset. Just, you have other festivals, so just focus on them. It's I get it. I say this all the time. In fact, if you watch my rejection video, it's in there. But what's also in there is you have to let yourself be upset about the things that bother you. And people doing that to you are not allowing you to do that. And it just compounds how you're feeling. It just makes it worse. So if that's something that you do and you think you're being helpful, I'm not trying to make you feel bad about it. Move forward and don't do that in the future. Again, weeks later, sure, but at the moment, just express the empathy. Sometimes somebody just wants to hear, hey, yeah, the world sucks and, things don't go the way that you deserve to have them happen. That's all it is, just a little bit of empathy. But if you just jump on someone and trounce their feelings, you're not helping them. And if you do that to yourself, you're not helping yourself. Keep it in mind, too much positivity can be toxic.